All right, guys, here we are at part 3 for the 1982 300D with 61,000 miles on it. In the last video, you saw the window relay, the door strikers, the auxiliary fan. There were some various other items. So in this video, we're going to get the car up in the air and do an inspection of the undercarriage and suspension and check everything out. All right, so I haven't cleaned, I haven't done anything under here. First thing I noticed, the oil pan is extremely clean. Looks like all the tie rod, boots. Oh yeah, that's still stiff. Yeah, these low mileage cars, there's no need to change the suspension on these. The bushings up here, yeah. All these bushings are good. Yeah, absolutely no reason to change any of that suspension. No leaks from the transmission area. Look how dry it is. There is not a single drop of oil from the oil filter housing gasket. Super clean under there. Wow, look at that. That's a 61,000 mile car. I love seeing stuff like that. Engine mounts are good. I drove the car, felt great. Keep in mind, I haven't wiped anything off. If I wanted to clean this really good, look how clean that original steering shock gets. It's just dusty under here. Suspension, the little rubber mounts for the exhaust are intact. The exhaust is not all rusted out. That's surface rust. Again, you see that on every car. That's surface rust. It does not mean the exhaust is rusted out. That's just normal. When it's rusted out, you will see black, usually around the connection here, black exhaust streaks where it's rusted out and been leaking. This one's solid. Transmission mount, excellent condition. Flex plate, no cracking. I mean, this is a 61,000 mile car. There's not going to be anything under here that's worn out. That's just not how these cars are. That's nice. No cracking on any brake lines. The boots are in fantastic condition. Sway bar end links are tight. No leaking from the diff. Rubber is fantastic condition around the boots. Get that spider web out of here. Yep, no cracking on the brake lines, no leaking from the brakes. Let me check this sway bar end link. That one's still tight. Yeah, there's nothing we need to do under the car. So all this stuff is good condition. But yeah, super clean, super nice under here. Nothing. Let's see. The upper, wow, look how clean the upper control arm sway bar bushings are and the upper control arm boot. I mean, that's about as clean as it gets right there. Over here, sorry, I know that's a weird angle. Yep, that boot is still good. All those bushings are good. No leaking or signs of leaking at all from the brakes. Yeah, that's fantastic. Control rod, bushings. Yeah, everything's in good shape down here. So look how clean the AC. That's the original AC. That's original R12. Now, I've actually ordered all new AC components for this car, but look how clean this is. I think I'm going to try to recharge this R12 system and see how that works out. I don't know. I don't know if I need to convert it or not. So I've actually got an appointment over at the AC shop to have it converted because I was going to go ahead and convert it to R134, but everything is so clean in here. I bet you that still probably works great. Anyway, I'll decide that later. Look at the oil cooler lines. They still have the cadmium plating on them. This is fantastic. super clean car. No excessive leaking from the oil drain back tube. Engine shocks are still there. The mounts are still in good condition. The bushings are in good condition. So yeah, so guys, what we're gonna do on this car, we're just gonna service it. I've already changed the oil. We're gonna do the differential and the transmission fluid, power steering fluid, radiator, brake fluid. We're gonna change all the fluids because there's nothing that needs to be changed down here under the car. This probably got 70, 80,000 more miles before you need to address any of that. Anyway, so let's get started on that. Before we do the diff change, I'm even looking at the exhaust hangers, and these things are not even cracked and worn out. Even the exhaust hangers are still good on this car. That's fantastic to see that. Yeah, those are still great condition. So let's go ahead and service the differential. First we need to take out the drain plug. Well, first we do the fill plug. You always want to make sure you get that out first. And then we'll go ahead and do the drain plug. Because those have been in here for 40 years or whenever the last service was. And with 60,000 miles on it, I doubt this has been changed. So that's why we want to put some fresh fluid in there. There we go. We got that guy loose now. Nice. That's really good condition. I know it's just a plug, but on these low mileage cars, everything is in such good condition. Even the little plugs and fittings. It's just noticed stuff like that from working on so many of these. Oh yeah, that's some nice old fluid. And we'll fill it back up with 80W90. Now guys, this really isn't necessary, but I always like to do it. I just put on some little pipe sealant onto the plug when I put it back in there, and it makes it go in. It makes it go in easier, and then when you have to take it out again, it just makes it easier to take it out. And it seals everything up nice. All right, let's put that guy back in there. That sealant just, you don't need a sealant to seal it, but it just makes them come out easier once they, when they have to come out again next time. All right, there we go. Got that plug back in. And now let's get our pump and pump some more in there. I use Valvoline 80W90. This stuff works great in differentials. There it goes. And that's full, guys. So let's get that out of here. And we'll just put our cap back on there and then wipe that up. And I can see right here, normally that is a cloth braided line from the fuel tank. And those cloth braided lines they will leak. And I see here that somebody has already changed this one to a rubber hose. And right there, they changed that one too, because those aren't Mercedes clamps. And see how the clamps look brand new? So somebody's already addressed that, which is really good. One last thing for me to do. Let's go ahead and get this tightened back down. All right, and there we go, guys. That is a serviced differential. Let's move up to the transmission. Okay, here we are at the transmission. Here's the transmission pan. So there's the bolt that comes out to drain the pan, and then you take the bolts out around it to lower the pan so you can change the gasket or change the filter and gasket. But see this little hole right here? That is a hole to access a plug in the torque converter. So you got to make sure you rotate the engine. See, I've got a 1/2-inch socket, or let's see, it's 1 1/16 socket and a 1/2-inch drive. And I just rotate it a little bit at a time until I see that little plug appear there. Oh my God, I got lucky. That was like the first pull and it just appeared. See if you guys can see this. There you go. The plug appeared right there. So we'll get an Allen and we'll take that out and drain that and take this out and drain that. All right, to get that torque converter pulled out of there, you just put an Allen up in there. There you go, you crack it loose. And now there's a little crush washer you have to put back in there when you put it back in there, or else it's not going to seal correctly. I got some of those on the bench over there. Let's see if we can line up our catch can without spilling it everywhere. There we go. Now I got to wait till that, and there you go. You can see the little, there you go. There's a little crush washer on there that you need to replace when you put it back in there. So we're going to let that drain, and I'm going to put another pan under here and crack that loose. That'll allow some, air to get in there, and that'll drain a little quicker. I probably should have pulled the tube up at the, or pulled the dipstick at the top of the car so that would drain quicker, but whatever. And there's also a crush washer here for this one. And that fluid is very red, so I doubt that's 40 years old. Someone's obviously been maintaining it, and they probably changed the transmission fluid at some point. So we'll let both of those drain out here, and then we'll drop the pan. Wow, look how clean it is in there. Very, very nice. All right, so we got the pan off, and it is extremely clean under there. There's our filter. There's a little Phillips head screw right there, and one over here. And we take that filter off. We want to change our filter and then put a new pan gasket on. And we're going to take this pan over to the parts washer and get this thing cleaned up really nice. Now we're just going to remove the transmission filter, and it's 3 screws. There we go, right in the bucket. All right, guys, you can see here we have our filter. Whoops. And you can see there's the filter elements right in here that filter out any debris. So let's go compare this to our new filter. I like Man, that's a good brand. Here's our new filter. And the first thing you do on these filters, hold them up and you compare. You make sure they are identical. And yes, these are identical filters. And you can see there's our nice, fresh, brand new filter down inside there. So we're going to pop this back up on the car. All right, for these filters, there's the where it flows out, there's where it flows in, or vice versa. I can't remember which one. It might flow in there and flow out there. On the filter, you have these little cork gaskets. See, it's a little piece of cork that is molded around the fitting. You want to make sure those cork gaskets go into the inlet and outlet. And to be honest with you, when these are lined up, you can't really put it in the wrong way. Now, keep in mind, this is all aluminum, so you do not want to go crazy torquing these screws down. You just snug everything up really good. It's aluminum. It's not coming loose. It's just a filter. But if you torque it down like crazy, you're going to strip it and ruin your, I guess this is called the valve body, or whatever you call this part of the transmission. There we go. See, that's all just snug down there tight. Now let's clean up our pan and get our pan back on there. Notice the torque converter quit draining, so we're going to put our plug back in there too. All right, here is our brand new torque converter plug and crush washer. And you can get this. This is Auto House, Arizona, 007-603-010112. That's a long number. But anyway, that's a new one we can put in there. Nice new crush washer and shiny new plug. All right, now let's go clean up our pan. All right, you guys have seen me do this a million times. I just like to clean these up in the parts washer because it's really important to have super clean transmission fluid. You don't want any particles getting in there. No dirt or debris, because it'll clog up those small orifices in there. And we'll go ahead and clean the back of the pan while we're at it. All right, we got our pan nice and clean, and we'll put on our new gasket and get this back in the car. All right, let's get this pan on here and get a few bolts started. And keep in mind, you do not have to torque down these bolts. They're going into aluminum, and you have a gasket that's doing all the work. So I'll make sure I don't over torque anything. All right, guys, that's it. Now we torque back down our drain plug and we go fill this thing up. Can't have it dirty under here. All right, let's go up top and do the power steering, brake fluid, radiator fluid, etc. Then refill the transmission fluid. All right, guys, I know these videos can get a little redundant. I'm just showing the service that was done on this actual car. And this is one of the most neglected items that I see on these cars. You can see I've got the power steering fluid drained. It's actually ATF fluid, but in there you have a filter. And let me show you guys how dirty. This is probably the original filter. I don't know. No, it's probably been changed. Yeah, it's a Hengst. So, and Hengst is the, yeah, so I'm sure this has been changed. Otherwise it would have had an original Mercedes in there. But let me show you guys how dirty that is. You know how dirty that filter is. Here's the exact same brand, Hengst, that I'm putting in there. Look, there's a fresh new one. So anyway, that's one of the most neglected items I see. So let's get our new one in here, and then let's get this system topped back off with Dexron 3 ATF fluid and bleed the air out of the system. And move to the next item. Dexron 3. That's the stuff these things like. Here are the bubbles. I got to go turn the wheel and bleed the air out of the system. All right, guys, we're jumping ahead a little while. I have detailed the engine compartment, and it looks absolutely beautiful in here. Very nice, all the original stickers. Hood pads in great condition. Got the coolant, the correct Mercedes coolant, that golden stuff in there. Anyway, looks like this car is pretty much done. Need to top off the transmission fluid, take it out for a drive, top it back up, get that to the correct level, and then this car is good to go. Oh, we need to do the service the air conditioner, make sure that works okay. All right, let's get this transmission fluid in here. This is the fluid I hate filling the most. All right, I hate filling transmission fluid because the engine has to be hot and the transmission has to be up to temperature. And then you got to drive it a little bit and you got to check it while it's running, and you can overfill it so easily. Like it can be not showing on the dipstick, and then you add like a pint, and all of a sudden it's over the fill line. So it's kind of a pain in the ass to fill transmission fluid, but I know it at least takes one of these, at least 4 quarts. I think it's 5 quarts and then some. So I just pour one of these in, and then I get it up to temp, and I kind of baby it and fill it up with another quart, and then kind of top it off. You got to just take your time and do it slow, or you'll end up overfilling it. So we'll put this in and crank it up and let it start circulating. We'll put it in drive and then in reverse and neutral, and we'll let it get into the system, and then we'll top it off a little bit, and then we'll go out and test drive it. All right, so that's 4 quarts. You know what? I know it takes 5, so I'm going to go ahead and put in a little more. There we go. And guys, actually, I'm going to recharge this with some R12. So you still got the R12 fittings, and I mean, this car is such fantastic condition, and the AC, the compressor looks great. All the AC components look great. Dryer's never been cracked open over here. It's so I bet you this system's going to work fine, and there's no need to convert it. And R12 is really easy to get on Craigslist. You can pick it up, you know. I jump on Craigslist right now and I can go buy it, you know, 20 minutes down the road from somebody that's selling it. It's readily available. So let's fire it up and get this transmission fluid to start circulating a little. Alright, you see how I put it in reverse, and I had to rev the engine just a little bit, and the car slowly started to move. That's basically the torque converter filling back up with transmission fluid. It finally got some in there, and I was able to move the car a little bit. So we want to let it run, come up to temp, and then we want to check our level. Alright guys, I'm in the car. And the way you can tell if you need to add a little more fluid, you put it in reverse and the car won't move. But the car is immediately, here, I'll put it in reverse and then let off the brake so it starts moving. And then I put it in drive and it immediately starts moving. So that way you know you have your level close. If it's too low, if it's too low, you put it in reverse and nothing happens until you give it gas. The car won't move at all. So that's how you know you're in the ballpark. So we can probably take a quart of transmission fluid with us and, you know, run around the neighborhood and then pull over and check it and drive a little bit more, then pull over and check it. That's normally how I do it. That final half a quart to a quart I top off while I'm out on the test drive. Okay, we're now looking at things on this car for preventative maintenance. And one of the items is, you can see I've actually got a pair of vice grips around it. It's the fuel primer pump. Now, let me show you. I'm sure most of you guys have seen these. Let me show you what one looks like. Here's a bunch of originals I have up here on the shelf. This is the original primer pump. And the original primer pump, okay, the original primer pump, here's the lift pump that goes in the side of the engine, and the pre-filter comes into this. And you can unscrew the primer pump, and then you can pump fuel and fill your pre-filter. The pre-filter runs in this. You pump fuel and fill up your pre-filter, and then you screw it back down. Now, these original design by Mercedes, those are notorious for leaking. They'll just randomly start leaking, and you'll be getting fuel everywhere. So it's good preventative maintenance to go ahead and change that, even if it's not leaking. Bosch makes an aftermarket. Here you go. You just screw off the little end here. And Bosch makes an updated design. And see, this one's much nicer. You don't have to, you just press it down and it pumps. You don't have to unscrew anything. So we'll set that there. We're going to install that in a second. The trick here, see I have the vice grips. The trick here, you can barely see it, it's right here, is getting this one out. You can see I have a set of vice grips on there. Here is a breaker bar that I'm going to try to wedge between the chassis and the vice grips. Let's see here. There it goes. There we go. And there we go. You can just unscrew it now. See if you guys can see what I'm doing. Yeah, y'all can barely see down in here. So I'm unscrewing. There we go. So there is the primer pump. Whoops. See where I had the vice grips on there? And now there's actually, okay, you can barely see it in the video. There's a copper crush washer right there. You can barely see it in the video. I got to get that out because we're going to replace the copper crush washer when we put the new one in there. Okay, so to get that crush washer out of there, we got a series of little picks here. We're just going to see which one gets it. Oh, there we go. Got it. There we go. This is what allows it to seal. So the Bosch one comes with a new one. There we go. It's on there. So we're going to put that back down on here. And the Bosch one actually, you can get a crow's foot around the threads here to tighten it down there. It makes it easier. So put that in there. Make sure our crush washer is on there. And that's it, guys. There we go. That's where we just removed the old one. Here's the pre-fill filter. It goes into the lift pump, which pumps in fuel into the filter housing, which goes through the filter and down into the injection pump. Then it goes out of the injection pump into the injectors, and any unused fuel is sent back along the return lines, back to the fuel filter housing, and down the cigar tube. This is, see how it's shaped like a cigar, fat at one end, skinny at the ends, and fat in the middle. And then it goes down back to the tank. So there's the line that comes in from the tank, and this is back to the tank. So now we just got to tighten that guy down, and that has been changed. All right, here is a crow's foot, and it's not metric, but this is an 11/16 crow's foot. And I can get down to it there beside it. I can come in from the side and tighten it in there. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, guys, I got my crow's foot on there, and we're gonna snug up this primer pump. There we go. There we go. That is not going anywhere. All right, we're just gonna hit that with some brake cleaner. There we go. And we'll go down here and wipe it off real good. That way we have no diesel fuel anywhere. And we can make sure there's no leaking. Now also I'll wipe underneath it, because when they leak, you often get dripping from the underside of them. So if you wipe it off from underneath and you crank it up and let it run, you can just put your hand underneath, and if it's dry, you're good to go. All right, let's get down here, see if we have any leaking. Nope, it looks dry. All right, so we're gonna shut off the engine now, and we've got a fresh pre-filter on there. So we're gonna go ahead and change the main fuel filter right here. All right, so again, we're still doing just maintenance on the vehicle. To get off the main canister filter, you want to change that maybe once a year. Depending on how much you drive. But you put a 22 millimeter and you crack this big nut loose right here. And then this canister filter, this can be a little messy. It just spins off. And of course this one seems like it's been on there a long time, because there is no spinning happening. It's just stuck there. Oh, there it goes. All right. Okay, it just pulls out from underneath. And you want to try to hold it vertical so you don't spill diesel everywhere. And what I like to do, because these are always full of diesel, and to make it easier to crank the car, I use the diesel in the old filter to prime the new filter. So here's our new man filter. I really like man. I use them fuel filters, oil filters. We're just going to pour that diesel into the new filter. That'll make it much easier to prime. We have to top it off with some more fuel though. There's not going to be enough in this filter. So we'll top it off with some extra diesel. All right, let me get some diesel to finish topping that off. All right, here we are with our government designed gas can, which basically does everything except actually pour gas. These things are fucking terrible. Whoever designed this needs to be fired. Anyway, so we're going to see if we can get some gas to come out of this piece of crap. All right, I'm sorry, diesel. All right, like I thought. That's going to go down to there. There we go. And we want to make sure this gets nice and full so we don't get a lot of air into our system. All right, there we go. Now let's put that back on the car. And if you do get air into the system, there's a way to bleed it out. It's not complicated. You can just undo a banjo bolt, but hopefully we won't have to do that, but I'll show you how if we do. Okay, here's really the best angle, you guys. But you can see that you can put the filter right under the filter housing right here. And I kind of wipe around with my hand to make sure there's no debris up there. And then you just want to lower it down there without trying to without spilling it. Just keep it vertical. And we'll get the thread started. And you can spin it clockwise. Here we go. Let's tighten that guy back down there. And basically you just tighten it till it bottoms out. You can use a socket if you got a thin walled socket to get around there. There we go. Now let's wipe that off. You got a good seal under there, and again, we'll check for leaks there. Now, usually at this point, when you fire up the engine, it runs for like 2 seconds and then dies. And that's because you got to bleed the air out of the system. Now, hopefully, I got it full enough where we're not going to have to do that on this car. But if you do, see right here, the arrow is pointing in, and see right there, the arrow is pointing out. Where out, you crack that banjo bolt, and then you just crank the car and it gets the air bubbles out of there, and then you tighten it back up. But we're going to see if we can get this thing fired up without having to go through that process. All right. And I'm going to prime the system a little bit just to make sure. There we go. We got our new hand primer on here. Ooh, there we go. That's good right there. And now we'll fire it up, and I think we're going to be good. And there you go, guys. That's how you do it, so you don't have to bleed air out of the system. So we have our filter changed here, our filter changed here, all new fluids in the vehicle. We still need to top off the transmission fluid. And we have our new primer pump. So let's take this thing out for a spin, and I'll carry a quart of transmission fluid with me so we can top off the transmission fluid as needed to get it to the right level. All right, guys, now that we have new transmission fluid or ATF fluid in the vehicle, we got to go heat it up and top it off. So I'm just going to drive down to the end of the road here. It must be just about right because it just shifted fine. But we'll drive down to the end of the road here and come back, and that's enough to, you know, heat up the transmission and heat up the fluid. And it's been running for a little while. Let's see, we're up, engine temp is up to 80 degrees. And then we'll check it and we will top everything off. All right, we just ran down the street and back, and it was shifting all right. Let's check our transmission fluid now. All right, there we are. All right, guys, we're finally good on the transmission fluid. So let's, we just took it out for a spin. You can see we have no leaks on our main fuel filter. We have no leaks on our new pump that's installed. And everything is topped off. Got brake fluid. Our coolant level is good. Battery is good. So let's go check some of the internals on this car. Let's just check the antenna real quick. Turn this on. All right, great. We have a good working antenna. Good working stereo. Let's make sure the antenna shuts all the way. Excellent. Let's check our windows. That's good. Oh, good. Rear windows working good. Let's check our driver's side here. Wow, those windows are very smooth. And let's check the rear window here. All right. Now let's check our time is right. I just set the clock, and the clock is keeping accurate time. It was 6:07 when I went out for the transmission test run. Now it's like 6:40. I'm gonna go ahead and lock the driver's door. We should see those two lock. Good. And we'll unlock it. All right, that's working good. Let me turn out the light here. Let's check our dimmer switch. Make sure that's lighting up. Yep, we got good lights everywhere. And let's just put the heat on full blast. Now, heat only comes out of the side vents. When you switch to AC, it comes out of the middle vents. And we got good, our switch over valves are working. We got defrost, that's good. And if we go back to cool, it switches over, good. Now we have our center vents. So all the vents are switching correctly. So let's go ahead and shut this off. All right, turn off our headlights. So guys, we are done with the service on this vehicle, with the exception of one thing. So when I was out on the test drive, I noticed that there was some rattling right here. There you go, see that? That is rotted shifter bushings. So let's go ahead and get this up in the air and replace the shifter bushings. All right, let me show you guys what I felt with the shifter bushing. There you go, you can see right there. See if I can get the light adjusted. Right there. So I'm gonna see that? There's supposed to be a bushing right there in that hole, and it has deteriorated over time and come out, and that makes the shifter loose. So we'll go ahead and replace that shifter bushing, and that'll tighten up the shifter. And there's the other one. See right there. So that one has like a part of a bushing. You see there's the bracket. Let's see if I can get the light to shine on there. There you go. There's the bracket. You can see a part of the bushing sticking through there with the clip on it. So that bushing has rotted and kind of, it's still there, but it's come out. Shifter bushings. There they are. There's a whole bag of Mercedes shifter bushings. I just picked these up from Mercedes the other day. And I bought all 9 of them. That's how many they had in stock. And there's your part number, 115-992-0310. So let's go ahead and get 2 of those new bushings installed. All right, so to get those shifter linkage out, there's a little clip right here. Whoops. There's a little clip. And first you got to get that clip off. That just lifts up over the end and it slides back. And then you can get access. There you go. Now the shift linkage has been removed and the bushing presses right into the shifter lever right there. I have a special tool. There you go. I got this from Kent over at Mercedes Source. See, the tool just opens up and you can squeeze the bushing in there. So let's see if I can get this on camera here. Sometimes you really got to squeeze it hard to get it in there. Almost. There we go. There we go. That is one shifter bushing. But let's see if I can reach around the camera. Got to get this arm. Well, I'm probably going to be in the way of the shot, guys, but whatever. You guys get the idea. So you got to get the arm back up in there and push it right there back through the new shifter bushing, and then we got to put our clip back on there. See how it's got that new bushing there? And this clip, the way these clips are designed, see you have a big opening right there. That slides over the end of the shifter rod, slides over the end of that, and then you push it forward and it slides into this narrow part. And there's a little groove right there that makes that work. All right, guys, you can see we have our clip securely back on. And now, see how firm that is in there now? We need to remove this bolt right here and just take off this this lever right here. When we take off the lever, we can then pull that out, push the bushing in, and then put the lever back in there. There, see there's a little nut on the end, and that nut pops off. And then you can, and you notice how the bracket is like that, or the mounting stud is that like oval shaped thing. When you pull this nut out, that will slip off the end of that. So you just got to take your time. And we need to get that little nut off the end. So you guys don't want to see me struggle with this while trying to hold a camera. I'm not even going to try to do that. And so we'll go ahead and get that off of there. And I just made it vertical. There you go. There's the shifter linkage going right through it at the top. So we'll put that, we'll go ahead and remove that and get it on the bench. Okay, you can see I've got the nut out of there. And now, once the nut is out of there, that little piece will pry off that linkage. There you go. It's hard to hold the camera, guys. Sorry. I know this is brutal, trying to watch this. There we go. All right. We can get this guy down here. Now we can pop off our clip, which is right there, and replace that. See that rotted bushing? And that bushing goes in the top hole right there. So let me go ahead and get this out of the car. Okay, here we have that piece. See, this was around that, like, I guess that's an octagon. I don't know how that's shaped. But when the screw was through there, it prevented it from sliding off that little octagon shape, because there you go. See that it has a groove in the middle, and that bolt goes through the groove and it holds it on there. All right, this one's much easier to do because we're not in the car. We'll get that bushing lined up there. There we go. It's pressing right in there. I think we got it. Let's take a look. There we go. Oh, that edge right there didn't go all the way through. So let's push a little more. There it goes. Oh, I'm dropping shit everywhere. All right. There we go. So we have our nice new bushing pressed in now. So we can put this back up on the car and slide our bolt back through there and put our nut and washer. There's a little nut and washer on the end. It's hard to get that little slot lined up. Ah, there we go. Bam. All right. Got it on there. Now we can slide this guy back up here. There we go. Bam. Now we're going to slide our bolt back through. So you can see right there, we got our nut started. And we'll just tighten that back down. And there is the new shifter bushing right up there. So that is going to keep that shifter from rattling. So let me tighten this down, then we'll lower the car and show you what the difference is. Well, it's still on the lift, but let me show you the difference now. All right, watch how tight. See that? See how it just goes where it's supposed to? And it doesn't flop around. That's good shifter bushings. Before it was like rattling in here. Now, see, if you try to move it where it's not supposed to, it comes right back. Anyway, so that problem is fixed. So yeah, this car is ready to go. We got shifter bushings. There's one more thing I want to check. It's just a preventative maintenance, and it is the fuel sending unit. Sometimes, now this one's not clogged up. The fuel gauge is still reading correctly. You got to remove the first aid kit box. There's a screw right there and there, and we can access the fuel sender. And I'm going to pull that out and disassemble it and clean it. And that will ensure that the bobber inside the fuel sender never gets stuck. So I'm going to go ahead and take that out, remove the fuel sender, and I'll show it to you guys on the bench. All right, I just removed the first aid kit. There's those 2 screws I popped out. And you're left with the hole right here. And there's the fuel sender. Look how clean it is back here. And that's never been opened. But what we can do is unplug it. And now there's a special tool. It's like basically a big socket you put on there, and you screw this thing out. We can pull it out of the tank, and we make sure that that is clean on the inside. I know you guys have seen tons of videos, but this is the service you got to do on these cars. There we go. We're going to use this socket. Here's another one that I have. This one's a little shorter, but let's go ahead and stick this guy on there. And I think that's a 17 millimeter. But so that just goes, there we go, goes right around the sender. All right, guys, and when you're doing this, it's very important. Don't hit your rear windshield with the wrench and break out your windshield. All right, I've already got this one. I've already got this one loose. So we'll just spin it out of here. There we go. Take our socket down here. And now diesel is going to be draining out of this, so I'm going to have to put the phone down because there's a drain hole at the bottom. So I'm going to put the phone down, but there's the fuel sender. So I'm going to put the phone down and pull that out with a little catch pan so I don't get diesel everywhere. All right, y'all kind of can see how I pull this out of here. I have a oil catch can, and we just try to do it, not get diesel everywhere. There we go. And you see what I mean by it? See how it drains out of there? Has a drain hole. So we'll let this drain, then we'll get it over to the bench and take it apart. All right, you can hear the bobber in there. Now I can already feel this one feels relatively clean. I guess we're gonna find out. So you got to undo the nut down here at the bottom, and that requires a little special tool. Let me get that. All right, I couldn't find my little special tool, so I'm going to just use some needle nose pliers, and there's just 2 little notches in there. Find the little notches, and then you can turn that, and then this just spins off. We'll set that down, remove the end piece here, and let's see how dirty this is. Okay, guys, this one is extremely clean. Look at that. And I don't know if you can see on the video, but there's 3 wires here, and those wires are what send the signal to tell how full your tank is. I think One of them is your reserve tank wire that tells the light on the dash when to come on when you're really low on fuel. And the other one, the other two, guide this bobber up and down, and it sends back an ohms reading to say how much fuel is in the tank. So guys, this one is super clean, so we don't need to clean it. There's a little, there we go. There's a little sludge right there. You go. You can see some right there. So we're going to clean that off with some brake cleaner and then reassemble this. Brake cleaner. And we'll hit that right there. And we'll hit this, we'll hit this one right here. There we go. Guys, that is clean. There you go. You can see a little residue right there on the side. We're going to go ahead and clean that out. I just do this on top of my parts washer because this thing is so nasty anyway. And there we go. Now that is perfectly clean. There's a little notch right here, and that notch lines up. I don't know if you guys can see. Let me get the bobber out of the way. There we go. Well, all right, there we go. See, there's a little notch right there. So you want those notches to line up. So we'll just reassemble this. You gotta be very careful. You do not want to break these wires. And there we go. We got the notch lined up. So we'll put that down there. All right, so I've reinstalled the first aid box, and gotta have a first aid kit. The original first aid kit. So I happen to find it. It was in the trunk. So there we go. We got our original Mercedes first aid kit in there now. And now let's go. Whoops. Let's go make sure our fuel gauge is still working correctly, which it should be. We just cleaned the fuel sender. When I turn the key to accessory, it should snap right up here. Oh, there we go. It's full. All right, that's good. So now we are officially done. Now we're officially done with the service of this. This is a collector. 1982 300D. Everything works perfect. It's been fully serviced. The last thing to do was the AC conversion. Now, due to the high collectability of this car, it's only got 61,000 miles on it, and the compressor and the dryer, everything looks really good in there. So I'm going to go pick up some R12 down the street. It's easy to get the stuff on Craigslist. Even though they haven't made it in years, you can find it everywhere. Tons of guys are selling the little cans. Some guys are even selling 10-pound canisters of it. There's one that I had that had a little left in it, but it's empty. So I'm going to go ahead and try to fill up the R12 system because it will keep the collector value of this car a lot higher if it has that original R12, and I bet you it's going to work. So I'm going to go pick up some cans and do that. But other than that, this car is fully serviced. Everything works perfect, and it is ready to go. Just get that AC up and running. So hope you guys enjoyed the video, and stay tuned. See you next time.